Hello and welcome to Piper's Paraphrases. I'm Professor Pipes, and today I'm talking about books 13 through 18 of Homer's The Odyssey. So if you're brand new to this channel, you may need to hit that subscribe button and then go back and watch my videos on books 1 through 6 and 7 through 12, because otherwise this story is gonna seem real weird. Well, weirder than usual. Previously in the Odyssey, Odysseus got shipwrecked at the land of the Phaeacians after being released from his captor, the goddess Calypso. He then told the king and queen about all the crazy adventures he went on in the 10 years after leaving the Trojan War, like listening to dangerous sirens, having a bunch of crewmates eaten by a cyclops, and then even more eaten by some giant cannibals, and even more eaten by a 6-headed monster. I'm sensing a theme here. All before he ended up at Calypso's place. Meanwhile, his 20-year-old son, Telemachus, who hasn't seen his dad practically since birth, has traveled to see a couple of war buddies of Odysseus, leaving his mom alone at their palace, dealing with a bunch of horrible suitors who are also plotting to kill him when he returns. Will Telemachus make it home alive? Will Odysseus make it home ever? Well, you're about to find out. In book 13, Odysseus is ready to leave the Phaeacians, so the king and queen load his boat with a boatload of gifts, and he and a crew of Phaeacians set sail. Odysseus sleeps the whole way there, and is even carried off the ship and left on the shore of Ithaca while still asleep. Man, I wish I could sleep that well. Meanwhile, Poseidon sees the Phaeacians escorting Odysseus and gets real mad that they did that, so he decides to turn their ship to stone right before they make it back home. King Alcinous remembers a prophecy that said Poseidon would one day turn their ship to stone and then bury the city under a mountain, proving definitively that no good deed goes unpunished. Sorry about that. Anyway, they quickly set about making a bunch of sacrifices to Poseidon and promising that they'll never help lost travelers again. Not sure that's a great lesson, but whatever. You do you, Phaeacians. Meanwhile, Odysseus wakes up and doesn't know where he is, so he asks a nearby shepherd, who is secretly Athena in disguise, and finds out that he is indeed back home. Yay! He makes up a lie about who he is, wanting to be able to make it home in secret, but then Athena reveals her identity and tells him he's gonna have to be clever to defeat the awful suitors. Then she disguises him as an old man and sends him to go hide out at the home of a swineherd, Eumaeus. In book 14, Eumaeus invites Odysseus in, not knowing who he is, and the two get to talking, mostly about, you guessed it, how great Odysseus is. Again, Odysseus makes up a fake backstory for himself, but claims that he has news that Odysseus is alive and will be home soon. Eumaeus is having none of it, saying that too many people have come around claiming to have news of Odysseus just to get gifts from Penelope. Despite those suspicions, Eumaeus lets Odysseus stay the night. In book 15, we head over to Sparta again to see Telemachus. In fact, so does Athena. She appears to Telemachus and tells him to head home quickly, and also warns him that those dastardly suitors are planning to ambush him. So she tells him how to, avoid being killed by them. In the morning, Telemachus takes his leave and a whole bunch of presents, and he's about to head out when an eagle swoops down carrying a goose. Helen says that this is a sign that Odysseus will soon swoop on home and take his revenge on the suitors. I mean, you're right on the money, girl. On his way home, Telemachus picks up a hitchhiking prophet, as one does, named Theoclymenus, and he's gonna be kind of important later on. Back in Ithaca, Odysseus tests Eumaeus' hospitality by saying he should head out and go see if the suitors will help him. But Eumaeus urges him to stay and warns him that the suitors are pretty awful. After that, they chat some more, and Eumaeus tells Odysseus about how he was kidnapped as a young child and then bought and raised by Laertes, Odysseus' dad. Then Odysseus is like, well, you're super lucky because even though you were kidnapped and sold as a slave, at least you have good masters. No. Not how that works. Pretty soon, Telemachus arrives in Ithaca, and Theoclymenus sees a hawk and a dove, and says they are a good omen. Then Telemachus sends the rest of the sailors home, and he heads out alone to see Eumaeus, which is where his dad is. Yay! In Book 16, Telemachus arrives at Eumaeus' hut, and I assume Odysseus' internal reaction was similar to Eumaeus' external one. All hugs and kisses and saying how much he missed and worried about Telemachus. But Odysseus can't reveal his identity right away, so he just has to act like he has absolutely no clue who this dude is. But then Eumaeus heads out to tell Penelope that her son is home, and Athena transforms Odysseus back into his normal self. Telemachus freaks out and thinks he must be a god, since he just freaking transformed. But Odysseus says that Athena changed his appearance, and that he's his long-lost dad. They hug and cry and then make a plan to kill all the suitors. Aww. Father-son bonding. Meanwhile, at the palace, the suitors who tried to ambush and kill Telemachus arrive back all upset that they weren't able to murder him. So sad. Antinous, who is the worst, says they should kill Telemachus quickly, and pretty much everyone agrees, except one semi-not awful suitor named Amphinomus. Penelope comes out and gets real mad at all the suitors for, trying to kill her son, but Eurymachus assures her that they love Telemachus and would never, ever hurt him. Scout's honor. In Book 17, Telemachus goes home and greets some of the servants and then his mom. He tells her about Nestor and Menelaus, and specifically about the news that the old man of the sea gave Menelaus, saying that Odysseus was alive but was trapped on the island of Calypso. He specifically does not tell her that he just saw his dad in Ithaca a little bit ago, but the prophet Theoclymenus almost ruins that plan by saying that he can sense that Odysseus is already in Ithaca right this very minute. Again, spot on. Meanwhile, Odysseus, who is disguised again, and Eumaeus head into town and meet a real jerk of a shepherd along the way. But yet again, Eumaeus ends up proving what an awesome, faithful servant he is by chastising the other servant and wishing Odysseus were back home. At the palace, a sad old dog— no, not you, Cooper— recognizes Odysseus and then dies after finally seeing his owner back home in Ithaca. So sad. Pretty soon, they all come across the suitors who are real rude to Odysseus. Antinous even throws a stool at him. Rude. Penelope tells Eumaeus to send for the beggar, but Odysseus says he'll come speak to her in the evening, so the suitors won't see. Finally, in Book 18, Odysseus is still hanging about with the suitors, and another beggar gets all mad that he's stealing his begging game. So he insults Odysseus and challenges him to a fight. Bad move, buddy. The other beggar loses. Miserably. The nice-ish suitor Amphinomus congratulates Odysseus, so Odysseus tries to warn him that he should go home and stop pursuing Penelope. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't listen. Penelope then appears before the suitors and basically guilts them into giving her presents. Odysseus is happy at how sneaky she's being, getting gifts to help make up for all the food they've been eating and all the trouble they've been causing. Soon, Penelope goes back to her room upset, and when Odysseus encourages the maids to follow her, they just make fun of him. So does Eurymachus. Odysseus is taking none of his insults and basically says that he's gonna run away as soon as Odysseus returns. So Eurymachus throws a chair at him, which misses and hits somebody else. Then all of the suitors get riled up and start getting ready to fight until Telemachus comes in and tells them all to go to bed, which is precisely what I'd like to do. So let's get straight into characters and themes. We really get to know more of the major players in this section of the story, and even some of our old faves demonstrate more of their personality traits. First, even though Odysseus is disguised as a beggar, his status as a true Greek hero shines through in a lot of ways. While he demonstrates love and affection, he also needs to show a deep level of restraint in order to ensure his victory over the suitors, such as when he can't show his love and relief when he first sees his son, his wife, and even his beloved doggo. He also shows a different kind of restraint when he is incessantly insulted by some of the servants and suitors. This restraint not only shows mastery over his emotions, but also intelligence, since he knows the importance of maintaining his ruse. However, looking old does not prevent him from also demonstrating his physical prowess in his fight against the rival beggar. Finally, Odysseus shows morality when he faults the suitors for their behavior and their lack of loyalty. He's got everything a good Greek hero needs: intelligence, morals, restraint, strength, and the courage to put himself amidst over 100 villains. Eumaeus is a new character, but he's already proven to be a rather important one. Clearly, he has served as a father figure to Telemachus in Odysseus' absence, greeting him like a father would greet a son after years apart. We also see that he is completely loyal to Odysseus, which will certainly play a part in the final section of this epic. I know. Here I am leaving you on a cliffhanger. I'm mean like that. Interestingly, Homer uses Eumaeus as an opportunity for social commentary as well. When discussing the servants who no longer care for Odysseus' dog, Eumaeus says that Zeus takes away half a person's manhood the minute they become a slave. He's not actually insulting slaves, but the institution of slavery. He's saying that treating a person like an animal or like property destroys a part of them. Remember, this was written thousands of years ago, so Homer was truly ahead of his time. Next, I want to discuss Odysseus' wife, Penelope. She continues to sing the praises of her husband, demonstrating her faithfulness as a wife. However, she's more than just a sweet, pretty trophy wife. She's smart too, making her a perfect partner for the intelligent Odysseus. This is shown even just by her choice to never choose a husband, but also to never dismiss this possibility entirely. This keeps the suitors from taking more drastic measures and prevents her father from taking the choice away from her. In addition, she tricks the suitors into giving her lavish gifts, since they have been busy eating her out of house and home. Clever girl. Finally, let's talk about a couple of not-so-nice guys, Antinous and Eurymachus. These two are the ringleaders of the suitors. We've seen them before, but now they're really showing their true colors. Antinous is particularly awful. He's throwing chairs, he's threatening the poor, he's plotting murder. Nothing is below him. Eurymachus, on the other hand, is perhaps equally as horrible, and also tries to throw a chair even, but he's most distinguished by his persuasive abilities. After Penelope rips into the suitors for trying to kill Telemachus, he effectively convinces her that they would never do such a thing, and that they all truly love her son. Dang, and after I just got done saying how smart Penelope is. I guess he's just a real good talker. Books 13 through 18 are mostly just setting the scene for the final showdown between Odysseus and the suitors. However, there are a few themes demonstrated in this section. One of those themes is loyalty. We see this in Penelope's loyalty to her husband, as she goes to great lengths to ensure that she remains faithful to him, even though time and time again people take advantage of this loyal devotion just for gifts. She also praises her husband and continuously tricks the suitors in order to avoid having to choose one of them as her husband. Odysseus also tests several of his servants to see if they are still loyal to him, and for good reason, because as it turns out, while Eumaeus clearly longs for Odysseus' return, not everyone does. The shepherd he passes does not demonstrate good morals or loyalty, and several of the maids have been familiar with the suitors, showing that they no longer honor their king. And guess what? They gonna be punished. The next main theme demonstrated in these books is Xenia. So many characters show this. The first one is Eumaeus. It's clear that he doesn't have much to give, but what he does have, he's willing to share with the beggar Odysseus. Several characters also encourage Odysseus to beg among the suitors and townsfolk, instead of perhaps telling him to leave the city or find employment. In fact, the one character who does essentially say, "Get a job," is Eurymachus, and he's completely shown up when Odysseus says that if he were given any kind of job to do, he would certainly do it better than a lazy suitor who does nothing but eat other people's food. Ooh, burn. Finally, Penelope's hospitality is perhaps superior to everyone else's. She has to put up with the suitors, feed and house them, largely because it would be wrong to turn them away, according to her morals. Finally, I'd like to discuss Stoicism and its relation to reason. Stoicism was an ancient Greek school of philosophy, which essentially taught that reason was paramount, and those who were wise would accept things as they come, rather than being ruled by their emotions, fears, or desires. In modern usage, Stoicism means the ability to endure struggles and hardships without showing your emotions. And the Odyssey really shows both of these in the character of Odysseus. over and over again, he is forced to endure both physical and emotional pain in these chapters. But he is smart enough and controlled enough to maintain composure and not just lash out or reveal his identity. This is shown when he's attacked and insulted by his servants and the suitors, and also when he first sees his loved ones, but is unable to go up to them and greet them and embrace them. He sees his wife being courted by other men, but can't support or protect her. He sees his beloved dog lying in manure, uncared for and dying, but he can't even pet him. Don't worry, Cooper, I'd never do that to you. But I guess that really just means that I'm not as smart and stoic as Odysseus. Oh well. Before I go, I'd like to leave you with some food for thought. First, what are your thoughts on Poseidon's punishment of the Phaeacians? Does it seem fair? And what does it suggest about their culture and society? Second, there are several signs from the gods in these books that people interpret as meaning that Odysseus will soon return and take his revenge. Based on the signs, how do people view Odysseus? What qualities does he seem to be known for? Third, what are your thoughts on Penelope's choice to kind of lead the suitors on and to request gifts of them? How is she portrayed in these books? Fourth, what do you think is the significance of Odysseus' dog, Argos? Why do you think Homer included him and his death in the story? And what might that symbolize? Finally, what are your thoughts on Athena? Why do you think she wants to ensure that all the suitors die? And what does that suggest about ancient Greek culture? Thanks for watching this episode of Piper's Paraphrases. Now go forth, read a bunch, and be good people.